What do you think is one of the most important thing artists should remember in their as they set onto this path?
Yeah, connect with other artists and with people and with life in general, because that's what keeps the inspiration alive. I love it, but it's sometimes so demanding, and I think that's what I found the hardest, is to be able to do everything. You have to learn to be kind to yourself, and to be like, look, yeah, I'm doing the best I can, and that's that's a lot already. I think I just saw opportunities and I took them when they were there, and that's how it just naturally happened. What I've learned is, like, one thing leads to another. Open the doors and don't dismiss any opportunity. Explore and go there.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, where are you right now? Are you in Paris? You're in Australia, right? You're born in Paris, living in Australia.
That's exactly it. So at the moment, I'm in Melbourne. This is where I'm based. This is where I mostly work. But of course, because I'm from France, I go back there, as much as it's possible, because it's really not that close. Yes, and I spend time and I try to work a bit more over there. Yeah, as much as I can.
But tell me something. What brought you to Melbourne in Australia, leaving Paris, and when did you do that?
That's quite a long story. Actually, I first arrived in Melbourne back in 2006 to study something that has nothing to do with my practice today. So I was not studying art, but I was,
What were you?
I was studying international commerce. So,
Oh my goodness.
marketing and yes. But I was painting, I was drawing, I've been doing that all my life. So when I arrived there, I was just very lucky. I think I moved in a share house where there were a few artists. And so I was dropped in the community of artists. I was back then 21, I think. And so, I met my partner, who was an artist, still is an artist, and I'm still with him. So that was then it became my strong connection to Australia, and that's why I stayed mainly.
Oh, wow. Do you miss Paris?
I do. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Um, yeah, Paris is just it's a crazy city. It's so intense in very good way and some other bad ways, but every time I go back there, I just feel so inspired, because this art-wise, the scene is incredible. There's just
Right.
so much going on. Yes.
But Lucy, tell me something like, a lot of people have this dream, like, artists have this dream. I think one of that dream is New York City. A lot of artists have this dream of, living in New York, being an artist in New York, showing your work in New York. And the other very common dream a lot of artists either live and think about is being an artist in Paris and, going to living that Parisian life. And a lot of popular artists from India who've been modern artists, and a lot of them actually from India, they moved to Paris, and a lot of of course, in history also, a lot of artists have gone there. So, do you feel like your work would have a different, like, does it ever cross your mind, like, what if you were there and how your work would pan out? Versus the influence of Paris on your work, the influence of Australia, and also, of course, the community there.
I think it's interesting because I feel like I went, uh, you know, um, in a different direction of what people would do. They would be attracted to Paris. I left Paris to be actually doing my art. But I think it's because I knew Paris just very well, and I could tell that from where I was from and what I was doing at the time, it would have been extremely difficult for me um, to settle as an artist, because there's just so many people, so many like so much competitions, and as well there's the way of the culture history. There were just so many immense great artists, not just French, but that had, you know, some link one way or another with France and with Paris. And so the way to carry as an emerging artist to follow this path is just very, it's a bit terrifying. While here, when I arrived there, I felt like it was a lot easier and lighter, and you know, everything was a bit more possible. So weirdly, I found it a lot easier to yeah, to expand and become who I was, who I am.
I think I've been to Paris a couple of times and I feel like I really love the city, but also I can. So, two of my favorite cities so far I've visited. I really love Paris, and another city that I really loved was Barcelona. Both of them had a lot of artists, a lot of energy, but so starkly different. Whereas, like, Paris was very, like, Renaissance and like a lot of historical and uptight and like really proper kind of art, like a lot of serious art in the sense of like a perfect art world. But the moment when I actually, for me, Barcelona was where traveling to Barcelona was like a very pivotal moment because I saw the carefree side of art there. Um, with every beach side, there was so many artists just sitting, selling their work. Somebody, we went to Casa Batlo and, there were artists painting inside, musicians singing inside, you know, like the carefree spirit of that place.
It's a lot more carefree, and yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I feel like Paris is just a kind of victim of its own success, and it becomes something really serious, you know. So you need to be already someone to be someone in a way.
Yeah, and I think, it also has something to do with being born and brought up in, but when you're born and brought up in a place and until you don't move away from it, I feel like you don't get the chance to redefine who you are and actually define who you are. Because before that, it is a lot of your own situations, like your surroundings and people who are around you defining who you are. But truly, when you move out, you get a chance to become who you want to be, who you feel who you are, I think, in that context.
Yes, it's definitely true. Like well, always traveling, no matter where, really helps you to find yourself. So that's probably, yeah, what I needed to do actually to leave Paris. But now when I come back, I do feel immensely inspired because I that really pushed me to think about why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because when I see artists, even like contemporary artists, or some of my friends who become artists, they put so much thought and care and, you know, work into what they're doing, and that really inspire me. Because sometimes here it's the same, but it feels like it, because it was just a little bit carefree. It feels like, you know, you didn't have to push that hard. And so every time I would come back to Melbourne, I'd be like, oh, no, I really have to think about everything and push it to as far as I can. So this is what I always take from Paris when I come here back in Melbourne.
I'm another thing that I'm very interested in is so you do these women portraits and figurative work and absolutely love your way of colors and like the persona your work carries. But what I'm also interested is in, I feel like the imagery that you have looks very different from, in the sense of influence of Paris. It's a lot of more, it has a lot more color, um, and also a lot more like diversity in the faces and the people that you show. Where did has this influence come from, and why do you paint these paintings? Let's talk about that also.
Well, it took me a while to understand why I was painting women, really. And I understood that I was not painting just women, I was actually painting symbols of what I call feminine force. And you know, it goes actually beyond gender. That's something I recently understood of my work. I'm really not interested in just painting women for, you know, just being women, but because they are a symbol of what I'm really interested in. And regarding the colors, I feel like, you know, in today's world, colors tend to disappear. Like when you go in modern houses, everything is beige or black or white. People wear a lot of black. Even new buildings now, they're all beige. And so I am against that. I am really like, no, we gotta keep color in our life. So I'm obsessed with that, and I put as much as I can in my work. I know it's not for everybody taste, but I think I go sometimes a bit crazy with that, but I think
Yeah.
it's very important for
To
just
have that fun
I
as
don't know.
well.
Yeah, it's fun, and I think it plays a big part, colors, in your well-being. So I am dedicated, keep pushing colors, and for painting, all kind of women. I feel like, Paris is a very diverse place. This is when you drop there, you can see these people from everywhere, and I grown up in that environment, so I see beauty in every woman, and so I absolutely love painting all of them. I want to I want, and they are, everyone is, all the women are the symbol of what I'm painting, so I want to make it as wide as possible.
I was so stunned seeing so many Indian restaurants in Paris and a lot of people who love Indian food who have probably not even been to India so far, but just because of the diversification of the place and the food it has to offer, I was so surprised. I was like, wow.
Yes, you can find, all the foods, all the restaurants, and all the cultures in Paris, and I mean, like, Paris and suburban area. It's very rich.
Okay, tell me something. I really want to speak about this because I found really interesting. You did the Radiant show with your sister, right? You collaborated with,
Yes, with I collaborated with Catherine Gaylor. So yeah, we can
yeah.
say she's my art sister, definitely. We get along really, really well. Yes, and she's from Colombia, and she
Okay.
migrated as well to Australia. I don't know, like, I think about 10 years ago, as well, a while ago, and I, we connected on many levels. First, on a personal level, we really like relate to each other. I think because she's from overseas, I'm overseas, I'm from overseas. We obviously understand each other's position of what it is to be a woman far from their family,
Yeah.
but as well, her work is in many ways very similar to mine. We are attracted,
Yeah.
in the same topic. So we worked in the past together on murals and on the residency. So we knew that we could build a whole body of work together and create a whole new show. And so we started that idea 8 months ago, and we just had the show, and it was a great success.
I really saw, I love seeing the process videos where I could see, like, you and her, both of you working on two pieces parallelly. That was very interesting. And I'm very interested in knowing, like, how has that experience been? Because it's not like just another collaboration where, like, you're doing a two-person show or something like that, but also like I think your work also looked like the both of your work felt like they were on the same tangent. um they really synced with each other. Two, I feel like um the way that you were making the work together, um it's like it was very interesting to see that, and I wanted to ask you, like, what has that experience been? Why did you do it in the first place? What triggered it?
Why? Yeah, that's a good question. I think we both wanted to have a show, and so we could have it separately, but because we are good friends, and we're like, let's just build. I don't know. I think in the conversation, we're like, we should have a show, and we just had this idea, like, we'll, like, oh, one day we'll have a show together. And then a friend of ours at the time, who was running a gallery in Melbourne, he was like, look, I would love to have a show with you too. Have you ever thought of a collaboration? And we're like, actually, we have thought of a collaboration, and we're like really thinking about it. But because he really put that into like a concrete happening suddenly, we're like, well, let's make it happen. It didn't happen in this gallery because timing was not good, but he played a role in there because we were actually talking about that but not really putting it to action, and then he dropped in and we were like, let's just do it. And so we did it, and it was a great journey to work with Catherine. It was beautiful. Like, I think we were on the same page, not just in terms of our aesthetics and what we wanted to paint. I think we were on the same page of how much we wanted to pour into it, and we poured absolutely everything. She's a hard worker, I'm a hard worker, and we were like, yeah, I feel it was very fair, very equal, and done with a lot of respect. I know she was really caring about my ideas and what I would think about, what she would do, and it went vice versa like that. So I think we just did it step by step, and then we went into that flow, and we're like, it just went very natural. If she had an idea, I was like, this is great, and let's just do it. And I don't know, it felt really easy. It was a lot of work, I'm not gonna lie. But with her, it was just it felt very flawless, seamless. So that was actually very enjoyable.
But did you have any hard moments? There was something that you feel was hard and you had to work on while collaborating with someone so intimately?
I feel like the what was hard is the ambition we had and the unknown. So we were really keen to do something big and try something different. So we were like, obviously we're gonna do paintings, but we wanted to do an installation, and we wanted to do a video installation as well. And we really wanted to have something that is not excluding anyone. So the hard part was to actually put those elements in place, because none of us had done installation. We've never done video installations. We had to learn along the way, and this took a lot of work. So technically
Yeah.
it was hard, but and challenging, but because there was two of us, you always motivate yourself. But this
Yeah.
is, yeah, it was a bit of a challenge, yeah, because for the installation, we had we wanted to do something, but we had no idea how to do it, and we went on an idea and it didn't work at all, and we're like, oh my god, we gotta start over. This is not gonna work. This is not gonna be what we want to show to people. And so, it's a lot of trial and error, and it's, yeah, I guess that's the challenge. But yeah, still, it was very nice to do that alongside her.
But tell me something like, you know, being just making work, being an artist, we spend a lot of our times in the studio. I, for one, like, I feel like when I'm casually making something, it's okay. Like, if I'm doing a quick sketch, going somewhere, but I just absolutely love the aloofness of my studio. I love how I can just be by myself. And I think that is one of the reasons I also don't like to document a lot of my work, in the sense of like having cameras and videos all around, because it just takes that carefreeness a lot of times. How was it to do you feel that way yourself? Um, and if so, um, how was that making, like, sharing that space? Because I saw a few videos and I assumed that you were making work together, to share that space with someone and like co-creating in a studio space. Like, how has that dynamic felt?
I love it, to be honest, because my back when I started painting a bit more seriously, I started in a collective on murals. So I am very used to collaborating. Actually, I was collaborating with a whole collective, AWOL crew back then for a few years, and in the mural world, it happens quite often. So, and because she is as well a muralist, she's used to that. So I felt like it was just very natural. However, it doesn't happen very often in my studio, nor in within studio's wall. It's often on a wall outside. So sharing my studio was great. Like, to be honest, I think I understood by doing this show as well that I do what I do because at the end of the day, I want to connect with people. So whether they are other artists, I want to collaborate with them. I want to, you know, build a bridge between me and them, and as well with the people who enjoy my art. So I'm like, all I want to do is connect with people, and having her working in the studio and flow with me. We would put the music, have some tea, joke, and then, have an hour of silence and just, do the work and then have a little break. This is all I love. I'm like, this is what I do. So I yeah, I love inviting people in my space when it's happening this way. It's just beautiful. And so yes, I think that was a great experience. But then the thing you mentioned about filming, your work, and it does take the carefreeness indeed away. It's always something to think about and to make a setup and make sure, you're not like blocking the thing and having to tape your phone or your camera, whatever, and review it. And it it's another thing, like your mind is thinking about that because you want to document. And it does, like, for me, I feel you when you say that, because I did feel that. I did feel I wanted to document everything, and so did Catherine. But it does, like, add a layer of, taking you away from what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
And
And I think for me, what's more off putting is I'm not a person like, for me, I think I am my biggest problem. I think I do things very seriously, in the sense of like, if I'm filming, then I would try, my God, let me fill it properly. And then the subject and the focus so much becomes about, okay, I wouldn't compromise, in the sense of, okay, I need to make sure, my camera is placed rightly. And like, and I'm not someone who feels like the camera is invisible. I very much know there's a camera. I very much know what's happening. And I feel like even though there's nobody looking at it, but there is a camera who's still looking at you. And for me, I just, it's very few days where I feel like I've gone in the moment. And for me, I just there's good and bad for both, like the pros and cons. um the pro of documenting is just so good, like, looking back at your work, projecting into a way, all of those things. But just also the quietness and just the lullness and nothingness of not, like, knowing that this moment is here, this is it. There's no recreation, no proof, no storage of this, and that you're fully present. And like, you know
yeah, it's true. And you just drop in that space. You don't have to set up everything, or, um I don't know. Even I found out that, if I know that I'm filmed or photographed either by myself or by someone else, obviously it changed my set of mind. I will be a lot more conscious of how I stand, how my body is, and so this is something I would not naturally do. I would just naturally think of the painting, no matter how bad my posture is, and it can get really bad.
Yeah. And also, like, I mean, having comfortable clothes, looking like a mess, spilling things over. And for me, sometimes what I would do is, if I'm working and if I feel too tired, or if I'm lacking sleep, I'll take a quick nap, get up again, and then go back in. So, like, my natural process is very like in the moment and just feeling it, versus like, I hate to think about how much storage is left, or how much battery is left, all of that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. No, no, I totally understand. But as you said, there's pros and cons, and the pros is, yeah, having track of what you've done, being able to share it with people as well is amazing.
I am not a self-filming person. I know that now. Like, I just can't. And I feel like it'll be really nice to have a few, like, someone come a few days a month and just follow me around and like record it for me. So that way, at least I'm not thinking about what angles to cover, how many batteries are left, and like, things like that. Because it is like, we need to find our ways around it if we want to protect those moments and still document them.
Exactly. Yeah, well, I always say to people, to document things, it's a job in itself, and it's true. Like it's someone's job somewhere, and that's all they will do. And as an artist, you have to learn to be able to do a little bit of everything. You have to be photograph, you have to be able to edit videos, you have to be able to do a website, you have to do, like social media content, anything. It's part of the thing, and I think sometimes that's what's challenging. It's like how much time you have in a day and how much time you can actually spend doing the painting and the rest, all the things that goes around.
Specifically, if you're also managing another job, another source of income, it takes. But I think, you know what, I've realized that I do a bunch of things in a day. And I've realized that sometimes it's okay, mm, for not things to fall the way you want them to be, and to not be running after everything all the time. I feel like switching between projects and just being kind to yourself and knowing realistically of what you're working on and what is a real case scenario that you can do your best in, and not like looking at others and feeling like, oh my god, I'm not doing enough.
Oh, it's so hard, especially with social media. You tend to compare yourself. You're like, oh my God, they're doing that. They're doing it great. Oh, they've made it like this. This is a good idea. I should do that. But then there's so much you can do, at the end of the day. And it's true, you have to learn to be kind to yourself and to be like, look, yeah, I'm doing the best I can, and that's that's a lot already.
Okay, tell me, Lucy, something. I'm very curious to learn this from you. How has your own journey, and I think I really want to ask this because a lot of times in my own life, I've thought about, moving countries, starting afresh, building a new like life and all of that. And a lot of people I know who've already done that. And I'm sure a lot of people listening to this episode might have also or are also on that line. So let's hear from you firsthand. Um, how was it to first move into another country and then choose the most unconventional career of being an artist?
Well, to move to another country, I didn't think I was gonna stay that long, to be honest. So it didn't feel that dramatic to come when I arrived. I thought I would do my study for a year, year and a half, and then I would just go home, and that would be it. I think when I really like understood that I could, um, yeah, that I could maybe stay longer is when because with my partner we left Australia when I finished my study, then we lived and worked in France together for a few years, but then we decided to come back in 2012 in Australia. And then I was like, oh, I'm still young and I have this window of time where I could just try. I'll give myself a year and try painting just to see how that goes, and at least I will have no regrets. But in saying that, before 2012, before I kind of jump in the unknown, I never really thought that I would be doing what I'm doing, because I grew up in a family who is, my parents are not artists. Well, my mom, she does paint, but she has a full-time job, and my dad as well. And so it never occurred to my mind that I could be a full-time artist, that I could live on that. I thought that was always a hobby, and I would just have that as a hobby. So it's interesting to see that I actually never dream of this life, but it's kind of like the other way around, the life um, become the dream rather than the other way around. So that I felt like I had really no pressure, or in 2012 I was like, let's just see what happens, and in best case scenario I can do a few projects here and there, and I have another job on the side, and I would have been happy with that. But things unfold quite naturally in a very good way. I think I was very lucky to be at the right place at the right time, to be honest, because at the time, Melbourne, back in, well, before 2020, 12, I would say, like, even from like 2010 to like 2020, there was like a boom of artist community. Murals were everywhere in Melbourne, and so I was dropped in at the right time, and I knew already some people there, and so it quite evolved naturally for me to have more and more work. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. And for a few years, I remember going to my studio and be like, man, I am living a dream. This is like my life. Is it my life? I was like, this is crazy. It was very precarious in a way that I didn't know what I was gonna do in the next 2 or 3 months. Of course, you have to be okay to live this way. I was totally fine, but I was waking up, doing what I love and earning enough money. I was not making loads, but I was making enough to be happy, and I was like, this is amazing. I would have never imagined I could do that. I remember telling myself that over and over. Eventually I got used to because it's been,
That
10
becomes the new
years.
normal.
It becomes a new normal, but still sometimes I think about it, and I don't know. I'm like, this is quite crazy because I never really like fully, I guess, unconsciously I fully intended to live this life, but consciously I was like, I know it's too hard. It's okay, if I just do a few projects here and there, that's good enough. And I don't know. I think I just saw opportunities and I took them when they were there, and that's how it just naturally happened.
It's also, I think, sometimes you try to protect your own dreams and your own ego and save yourself from the hurt. Like, okay, okay, I probably, even though your deep, your heart desires it, but just because we are sometimes afraid of how it's going to pan out or how hard or, where it would lead you, that we're like, okay, you know what? I can just do this once in a while, make myself happy, look for an alternative. But life was like, you know what? You deserve, like, this is all for you.
Yes, it's true. Yeah. I think probably I was just maybe kind of protecting myself to be like, oh, look, it's okay. If you don't make it, that's not anywhere the goal there. The goal is to have fun and obviously paint, but if you don't live off it, it's okay as long as you have fun, as long as you express yourself. And so this kind of lift off the weight of thinking like, oh, I gotta make it, I have to, like, hustle and actually become an artist and settle in that. And I think, yeah, having the other set of mind allowed myself to be yeah, just yeah, having less pressure, I guess. And so because I had less pressure, it was maybe a bit easier to navigate, and just yeah, I don't know. An interesting question actually when I look back, because I do feel now that I'm more settled, and I'm more now I live of my practice. I do feel the pressure a lot more than 5 years ago, when I was actually earning a lot less, and people didn't really
Still a
know
lot
my
more
work. And
happier.
well, like, I'm very happy, but I do feel, yeah, just more pressure now. I took it seriously.
I think this is something like, once you get good at something, you start to get, a little bit of more success. The pressure of that, like, to take things seriously, to be cautious, and like, and then you're making it a business, and all of that. Um, Sometimes it's again, it's like a trade-off. It's You have to remind yourself to keep having fun in the new way as well, but also like the pressure it brings, because you have to pay your bills, you have people to answer to. It's no longer just about you, it's about other people that you're working with. So there are a lot more things that get involved in that process.
Yes, yeah, there's a lot more involved. And in a way, I guess that's why I as well love to surround myself with people I can work with, because, again, to come back to the show I just had with Catherine, it's kind of sharing the load, like, not just physically, and it's a mental huge support to have someone who understands exactly what you're going through. And so you just feel stronger when you have someone by your side, who is doing the exact same and who has the same value. So I think, in a way, that's why as well I was very interested in teaming up, because I probably felt pressure, and painting is quite a lonely process, you know, as you know, being in your studio, you're on your own, and so sharing as well the company of someone on the daily basis is really nice, doing what you do. So all of that, yeah, I think lead me to yeah, the choice. But I'm not always conscious of them as I, you know, take the decision of going one way or another way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do you think has been in all these years? What was the hardest thing for you?
That's a good question. I think the hardest thing is actually all of these things that you have to be doing as an artist, especially if you are just freelance and you're not represented by anyone, is all the in between things you have to do. You know, it goes from meeting clients to send quotes, to do your taxes, to do all your social media content, to document your work, to create catalog for your work, to publish in some platforms, and to register to Artprice, send emails, and, you know, follow up as well on social media, respond to it just takes an enormous amount of time. I love it, but it's just sometimes so demanding, and I think that's what I found the hardest, is to be able to do everything, you know? It's kind of how I see it. And the painting itself is actually only, well, not a small fraction, but it's only a fraction of the whole thing you have to do.
But I think it's something that is like a struggle we chose. Like when you become an artist, this is something that comes unsaid. Like, you know that this is going to be a part of that process. You know, you like that challenge. But I think what's a lot of time and difficult with social and technology running at such a fast pace, it's expecting a lot more than that. And sometimes that load actually becomes more than the load of what we chose off, which was the creative process in itself.
Yes, it's very true. It's so true. Like, I feel with all the technology, it's a blessing in a way, because then we can do like amazing things that we couldn't do even just a few years ago. But at the same time, it feels like you always have to keep on top of it, and learn. I mean, I like learning, so it's actually a really good thing. But for instance, I was very interested in learning the NFT space because I was interested in animation. And that's something I've absolutely had no idea how to do. I had no idea what an NFT was a few years ago. And it was a massive learning curve. And you know, I'm very happy I am, you know, I started that process. It's fascinating world, and I love doing animation. But again, it was a huge amount of work, and I'm like, wow, it's yeah, it's a full other job in a way. So because I am interested in so many things, I want to be doing everything, and there's so much time I have.
I love that. Yes, because that is, it's like I was, so we were working on a book and it asked, like, you know, how would you describe your mind and work? And I'm like, organized mess, and that's how I feel most of the times. Because as an artist, as a creative person, I every day wake up with a new idea, something I want to work on, be it my own art practice, be it, like, you know, but also constantly juggling between everything that we're already doing, everything it demands of. And still, like, it's like you still come up with new ideas to organize what you already have. It's like a ever going process.
Yes, yes, it's true. Yes.
Thank you so much, Lucy. Thank you. I know we've already spoken for 40 minutes, and it just doesn't even feel like that. I have a small rapid fire for you, though.
Yes, sure.
Here we go. Number one, what inspired you to become an artist?
Wow. I think, well, I it's a hard question because actually I consider myself an artist very late in the process. When I look back, I was already an artist when I started drawing. So I guess my inspiration in the first place was what put a pen in my hand, and when I start drawing, is looking at my older sister. She was drawing, and she was a very good drawer, and I just wanted to do the same thing. I was so fascinated with what she was doing, and so I just simply copied her. I was like, oh, she's too cool. I'll do the same. And she stopped it, and I never did. So I think that's how it started.
Okay, well, can you share one of your most memorable memory of your creative career so far, like a moment that you feel very precious and attached to?
Oh, there's so many moments. I think a very important moment for me was when I was just beginning painting in Melbourne, and I was part of this collective, and I was probably the less experience out of all the guy I was painting with. They were starting to be quite established, and so I was lucky to be part of that because I got a lot of jobs because I was part of this collective. And one day I got this email out of nowhere, and there was this woman, and she wanted this massive mural. It was huge. No one has ever asked me to do something like that, and I was like, wow. And I was like, I've got this opportunity to finally get a big job for all the crew, and that was the first time for me, and I was so happy and proud. I was like, this is a for me, it was a milestone, you know. And so when I shared that with them, they're like, oh yeah, that's great. And so I think that was, I wouldn't say the best, but one very memorable, because I totally remember this meeting. And when I was on the train, I was writing the email to them. I was like, oh my God, or the message, I can't remember. And yeah, it was kind of like there was a before and after for me with this project.
I love that. Okay. What do you think is one of the most important thing artists should remember in their, like, as they set onto this path? One thing you would ask artists to always remember?
Um, Connect, because that's my big lesson anyway for me, and that's why I put number one, because yeah, connect with other artists and with people and with life in general, because that's what keeps the inspiration alive. And we are no one if no one is actually looking at our art, you know, or understanding, or so connect with people. That's for me number one. And yeah, talk about, you know, your work, and you know, life, and who those people are and whatever. So really, for me, it's connection.
Okay. Are you a morning person or an early night person? What's your favorite time of creating?
I'm very much a day person, so definitely not night. I'm terrible at night. Yeah, like, quite, to be honest, after 8 p.m., I'm rubbish. So if I have to do it, I would do it. But yeah, I just my body is saying like bed, bed. So I'm very much a day person, not an early day person. I don't wake up very early, but yeah, I have in my prime work between 10 a.m. until like 6. It's really where I'm like a machine.
Okay. How about music or silence? Your zone of creation.
Oh, I definitely play music all the time when I create. It's a massive thing for me. It's huge. Yeah, sometimes if I don't feel that the flow is not there, I put some music that I like, and it's really igniting this fire, this creation fire in me. So music is a huge part. Yes.
Okay. One piece of advice you would like to give other artists right now.
Well, I wouldn't say again like connect, but if that was like from an artist who were going to start, I would tell that person to see opportunities when they arise and take them. And sometimes opportunities seems to be like, you know, someone will ask something, and the project is maybe unpaid or whatever, or small. Go there and see what it is about. Don't close the door, basically. See and meet the people, because what I've learned is like one thing leads to another. And if, you know, you haven't got any money there or any result whatsoever, you know, connection or whatever, this will happen down the line. So don't dismiss any opportunity. Of course, you know, you have to choose, because you have limited time. But I've learned that, yeah, open the doors and don't dismiss any opportunity, explore and go there.
Love that. Okay, thank you so much, Lucy. Thank you. Before I let you go, can you tell us about how people can, follow you, find you, support you, or if you have any new project that you would like to share with us, we're happy to hear.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. It's been great talking to you. And well, if you want to follow my work, the best way is, I guess, Instagram, which is Lucy1, though the one is not the number, is ONE. So Lucy ONE. I think that's the best way to follow my work. I will be actually painting in France quite a really nice shaped mural in 3 or 4 weeks. So, oh no, actually a bit more than that because it'll be end of July. So that's pretty much my next project. And so, follow my adventure in France over there, and yeah, and connect with me if you are there. Yeah, please get in touch.
And tell me something, I had to ask. Why is it Lucy Lucy? Why two Lucies?
Yeah, I actually I didn't even choose that word, but this is two part of the story. But when I was not even like when I first arrived in Melbourne, I was just painting as a hobby. My Facebook page was well, my Facebook account was called Lucy Lucy, and a friend of a friend asked me if I wanted to be part of a show. I was like, oh my god, I've never exhibited my work. Yes, and they didn't know what name to put on the flyer, and so they just chose what they saw on Facebook, Lucy Lucy. And I remember telling my partner, "Oh, look, they put Lucy Lucy. That's so funny." And he was like, "Actually, it's a good name." And I was like, "Oh, well, maybe I'll just keep it." And for the story as well is that I have a twin sister back in France, and I feel like having a double Lucy, yeah, is for me a way to have her with me at all time. We're very connected and we talk often, but she's not living with me, so having another Lucy is having her with me everywhere in
Yeah,
a
you're
way.
carrying her around in your name.
Exactly.
That is so good. Thank you so much, Lucy. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and I hope to see you soon again.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great
Thank you.
pleasure.